Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Perfect World based on novel. So let's start. The witch and fairy Yu-chan separated as well, both of them stopping their attacks. After a short confrontation, they both retreated to a different side, thus ending the great battle. However, everyone was quite excited. They all knew that there was definitely going to be a world-shaking battle in the future. Right now, they were just getting a feel for their opponents. The strong and weak will be decided one day. Everyone scattered, but they didn't give up, continuing to search for the silver-haired woman. Rumors had it that the surroundings had been sealed. Many people sensed that the silver-haired woman couldn't escape. She was hiding here to treat her injuries. This place was close to the Million Village. With the experts confronting each other, no one would normally come here. They were still relatively restrained and wouldn't destroy a tribe for no reason. The silver-winged bird was a type of powerful vicious bird. Even though it created its nest near the Million Village, they had always lived together in harmony without any conflict. This bird already developed spirituality, so it naturally noticed these things. It wouldn't carelessly attack those powerful humans. There seems to be some special circumstances. Shahao felt as if that silver-winged bird was quite uneasy. It actually flew away. There was still medicinal fragrance that pervaded the air. Soon after, that special silver little bird restrained its spiritual essence. Its body no longer shone, but its body was still silvery white, making it still look different. Why did that mother bird leave in such a hurry just now? There's nothing really wrong with this place, Shahao said to himself. His nose moved a bit. There is the smell of precious medicine. It's you. You ate a type of precious medicine just now. He looked at the special young bird. The more he looked at it, the more shocked he felt. In the end, he couldn't help but widen his mouth. Why do you look a bit like a silver phoenix? Shahao's jaw almost dropped onto the ground. This was not a misconception. He moved over and carefully looked at it. It really was too similar. Return to your ancestral roots. He knew that the silver-winged bird's ancestors could be traced back to the phoenix bloodline, but this return was too formidable. Defying the heavens. This silver-winged bird produced an ancestral return, creating a silver phoenix. Shahao truly found this a bit hard to believe. Like a thief, he tossed this young bird into his sleeves before jumping off the cliff. Unexpectedly, the mature silver-winged bird didn't seem anxious at all. When it saw them leave, it actually felt relieved, flying back to the nest. Why is your mom scared of you? Shahao became even more suspicious after seeing this scene. This young bird stared at him with a look of contempt. You aren't allowed to look at me like that. Shahao flicked its head. As a result, this young bird became furious. It pounced over to grab his face, as if it was going to stake it all against him. Wait, why do I feel like this bird is so much like a person? It is really strange. Even if it's an ancestral return, it shouldn't be intelligent while being so young. Why do I feel like it can understand me? Shahao said. He lifted the silver little bird up and turned it around to look at it. In the end, the bird was so ashamed that it grabbed one of his fingers with its beak without letting go. Is there really something strange? Shahao lifted it up and earnestly inspected it. Shahao carried it while flipping it around and looking it all over. He then tugged at its silver rainbow-like beautiful tail, immediately making all of its precious feathers stand up straight, as if it was irritated. It was going to stake it all against Shahao. Why is your temper so strong? Don't move around so much. Shahao flicked its forehead, making the beautiful little bird so angry it widened its eyes, flying into a rage of humiliation. Shahao really did find it quite interesting and continuously toyed with it, flicking its forehead, and then helping it comb out its brilliant silver wings. He found its angry expression extremely amusing. Was it really a young silver phoenix? These creatures were rarely seen since the ancient times. If it was real, then it might trigger a huge commotion. None of the great sects would be able to sit still. After all, this touched upon one of the unmatched precious techniques. True Phoenix mysterious technique. This level of divine ability was enough to be called taboo, something that even the giants of the higher realms would long for. It would trigger a huge commotion. The entire world would be in a state of unrest. Shahao's eyes burned fiercely. He wiped away his saliva. If this really was a silver phoenix, then for him, this was heaven-defying luck. Let me look at your bones, he said to himself. It was hard for him to reach the accurate conclusion based on its outer appearance. He took out the jewel pupil to carefully look at the true bone in this young bird's body. Whing! The jewel pupil moved, releasing disorderly light. It was actually unable to see through this young bird. There was a silver flame of light around its body that continuously burned, blocking out everything from the outside world. Open! Shahao used Dao sounds, releasing a light shout. He used his divine mental strength to search this young bird's sea of consciousness. However, something unexpected happened. He was stopped again. Its forehead shone, and a silver flame formed from symbols appeared, burning about there. If he forcefully searched it, it would most likely break apart this young bird's body. Shahao rubbed his lower chin and said to himself, it has powerful symbols and potential, able to passively put up a defense, but unable to actively carry out a method. All right, I guess I'll have to reluctantly raise you by my side. He began to laugh in a mischievous manner. If this really was a silver phoenix, then that would be really amazing. The young bird was extremely dejected as it sulked. Are you hungry? I'll make some food. Shahao found a pot and put some meat inside before delivering it to the young bird. What was shocking was that it directly kicked it. Its movements were fluid and graceful, flipping the pot over and sending it towards Shahao's face. Are you rebelling? Shahao caught this pot and forcefully flicked its forehead. As a result, it was so humiliated tears flew out from its eyes. It actually began to grind its beak in anger as it stared furiously at him. Hey, you are a bird, if you don't eat this, what do you eat? Don't stare at me, say what you want. You don't have any teeth, so don't grind your beak anymore. Shahao said. The silver little bird had a bad feeling and stared at him with everything it had. Big red bird, second Baldy, third Blackie, it's your turn, so what should I call you? Shahao said to himself. The silver-colored bird almost fainted. What kind of rotten names were these? He was actually going to continue with the numbering. Its bad feelings had been completely realized after all. I'll just call you fourth White Eye so it fits with the others, Shahao said to himself. Then, he repeated it again, feeling more and more satisfied with it. He laughed loudly and said, not bad, in the future, this is your name. The little bird widened its eyes, its entire body breaking out into a cold sweat. This rotten name really wasn't a simple type of intolerable. Its entire body broke out in goosebumps. What kind of look is that? Are you too happy, or did you go stupid? What are you widening your eyes so much for? Shahao was discontent, because he noticed that this bird was looking down on him. Shahao called it fourth White Eye. This little bird wouldn't submit even unto death, completely disregarding him and even having a rather resentful appearance. Regardless of whether it was its expression or performance, it was all saying that this name was garbage. Fine, I'll make an exception for you. Among the divine beasts and auspicious birds I've met, there were two that were extraordinary. That is why I gave them different names, so I'll make an exception for you too, Shahao said. The silver little bird shot him a look of contempt, not believing that he could come up with any good names. One of them is named Hairy Ball, and the other Little Red. It matches both of them quite well. Shahao boasted. The little bird stumbled. These were truly horrible names. It was just too unbearable. For the next few days, the atmosphere was more and more tense. During this period of time, Silver wanted to slip away several times, but in the end, it was always lifted up and brought back. Its struggles were futile. There was simply no way for it to escape. During its most recent attempt, it fled outside Vermilion Village, but it just so happened to encounter a battle between Child of Lightning and another powerful individual. Terrifying lightning streaked across the mountain skies, shaking the earth with its power. In the end, it listlessly returned. Shahao revealed a look of shock. He propped up his chin while looking it over, making Silver's entire body uncomfortable. Its beautiful large eyes stared at him in an unresigned manner. Your appearance doesn't look that normal. What if other people discover you? Let me help you change your look to avoid provoking a disaster, Shahao said to himself. At first, when Silver heard these words, it blinked its large eyes, feeling that this was something it agreed with. It acted somewhat reserved and also put up an appearance, as if it would reluctantly play along. The moment Silver saw itself through the copper mirror, it felt as if the world was spinning, almost directly fainting on the ground. Then, it directly threw itself at Shahao to stake it all against him. It was because its beautiful feathers had been cut into absolute chaos. It was a spectacle too horrible to endure. Its appearance was changed too much. From its opinion, it was now ugly to the extreme. I am going to kill you. Shahao seemed to have almost heard a pleasant, but extremely flustered and exasperated female's voice. He turned around and revealed even more surprise as he looked at Silver. The little bird's feathers all stood up vertically. It was too angry. Its eyes released silver flames as it viciously stared at him. Is this not good enough? Your appearance before was too eye-catching. Let me help you add some finishing touches. Shahao didn't pay it any attention and lifted it up. Then, with the bone shears, chili catcher sounds could be heard as he crazily moved the shears. Finished. Finally, he revealed a happy expression. He was extremely satisfied. He tossed the bone shears and lowered Silver, putting it in front of the copper mirror again. Silver didn't dare open its eyes, because this time, it was even more severe. It could clearly feel that its bright and beautiful tail feathers, and its head's most brilliant feathers had been cut. Relax, this time, it's extremely beautiful, I guarantee your satisfaction. If others saw you, they definitely won't be able to recognize that you are a silver phoenix. Shahao said confidently. Silver's eyes surged with flames. Unfortunately, it couldn't use precious techniques right now, or else it would have burned this wretched fellow until he cried out in pain, seeing how it would act smug then. What? Not bad, right? Shahao asked. Absolutely horrid. Vaguely, a beautiful voice that carried grief and indignation vaguely sounded. Don't worry, if you grow it for a few days and produce a few silver feathers, you'll look just like a pigeon. Then, I can bring you away from here, and no one will notice. Shahao confidently said. Then, he added, you'll get used to it soon. I promise to settle the matter in one go with the shears next time. There was still a next time. Silver was truly feeling great grief and indignation. Its black gemstone-like eyes were seething with silver flames, inwardly swearing that when it revived its true body, it was definitely going to throw this idiot into a mountain and suppress him for 500 years. Inside the mountain range, scarlet magma roiled, turning large patches of the forest into ruins. There were powerful individuals fighting here. For the next few days, disputes broke out in this place again and again. Exceptional talents fought against each other. As soon as they encountered each other, no one was willing to submit to the other, and only a battle could decide things. The battles were especially fierce. Shahao frowned. He saw even more powerful creatures. Now that news of the three-world copper coffin and supreme hall sounded, it created a huge sensation. Powerful individuals came from every area. Blue flames jumped about. An enormous earthworm appeared. It was more than 50 jong in length. This was an expert that had its divine flame ignited. As soon as it appeared, it directly attacked Immortal Palace's young Great One. Assassinations of geniuses in the higher realms were commonly seen things. If different powers stood in opposition, they definitely wouldn't allow their younger generation geniuses to calmly mature. Elder Yu Chan's main body appeared, calling out to him. This was an expert from heaven-mending sect that had ignited his divine flame. He also arrived in this region. The earthworm broke away. It was shining as half its body entered the earth. Its movements were extremely swift and violent. Imprison! The elder shouted. He brought out a divine bead that radiated earthen yellow radiance. It surrounded the mountain forest below, making the earthworm's body go rigid, unable to escape. This was the difference between a loose cultivator and that of a holy land. The former lacked formidable precious artifacts, while it was different for the latter. They had weapons that could completely suppress experts at the same level. That bead was an earth walk bead, purposely created for creatures that relied on the earth. It immediately made the earthworm lose its method of mobility. Bloody light splashed outwards. The halberd hacked the earthworm into two, and then with a fierce twist, it made the powerful creature break apart inch by inch, turning into a bloody mist. An expert that had its divine flame lit was killed just like that. Blood splashed everywhere, making the great void halberd appear extremely sinister. Those that saw this scene on the mountain range all shivered inwardly. A creature that ignited its divine flame was killed just like that. Soon after, a few other powerful creatures appeared in this region. They were all powerful figures from various sects. It is becoming more and more lively. I should leave. Shahao said softly. There was no reason for him to tread in muddy waters. While speaking, he gave Silver a glance. It was enough as long as he saw the few vicious individuals third grandfather had mentioned and secretly assassinated them, helping the Million Village deal with some grudges. I need to leap out of the sea like a fish and no longer be restricted. I want to move freely through this world without hiding from anyone. Shahao said to himself. He needed to become more powerful and not like how he was right now, feeling such restraining fear. He was going to pursue power and strengthen himself. He temporarily left this chaos. Either way, Silver was right at his side. He knew that a great natural opportunity would naturally rest in this Silver Phoenix's body. 2 days later, Shahao and Silver disappeared. When they were about to leave Scholar Tree City, he suddenly felt as if something wasn't right. There were mists curling about ahead that were quite strange. He was extremely careful, wishing to go around it. However, in the end, he found that the entire place was like this. This was a great ceiling formation. Silver was extremely nervous. A pair of large eyes that flowed with dark radiance moved about. However, it didn't say anything, obediently staying by his side. What a huge expenditure, to directly seal up this region. Shahao sighed in admiration. It was clear that a great sex expert hurried here, and sealed up this place in order to capture the silver-haired woman. He woke up the divine striking stone. The two of them researched it together, and found a route out. 2 days later, a ripple appeared in the foggy area, and they silently left. Shahao glanced backwards. That was a swamp. There would definitely be great battles between many cultivators. Silver, do you know where the 3-world copper coffin is? How about you tell me where Supreme Hall is? When they were far away, Shahao suddenly spoke. Silver's feathers immediately stood on end one after another. It stared at him with its large eyes. Don't be so tense. I'm just casually asking. Shahao smiled and said. Soon after, he arrived in the prefectural city. He discovered that the battle between this level of geniuses hadn't begun yet, and that there was still a period of time before then. We should still change to another prefectural city to be a bit safer. Shahao said to himself. After traveling several tens of thousands of li, he departed far from that region, and only then did he stop. He sectored an enormous city and entered, taking residence. The main reason for his decision was to learn a bit more about the current situation. It was because Vermilion Village was too remote, and even third grandfather, a senior who had left to cultivate before only had limited knowledge of the outside world. This is the Lightning Province, and it is actually close to 5 Elements Province. When he received this information, Shahao found it hard to calm down. Apart from cultivation, there was one other important thing he wanted to do, and that was to search for his grandfather. 5 Elements Province was where Immortal Mountain was located. Every time he thought of his grandfather, Shahao would feel warm inside, but also a bit pained. The old man had paid so much for him, but he had never been able to meet him. When he was still very little, his grandfather had found true blood from a vicious beast, but in the end, he was hunted down by a Pai Xiao and had one of his arms taken. After that, he was even trapped for more than 10 years. Upon returning, the first thing Grandpa 15 did was look for him, bringing a divine pill with him. However, when he found out what happened in Stone Capital and learned the truth, he felt as if knives were twisting about within him, feeling incomparably terrible. He was furious and unleashed a great massacre. But they were attacked and seriously injured. Large amounts of blood were coughed out. Then, he unexpectedly entered the higher realms. Grandfather, you have to take care of yourself. Shahao said softly. He felt a bit sore inside. He wasn't worried about his parents, because with their relationship to Qin Hao, Immortal Mountain would dare to act randomly. Only, the great demonic god entered the higher realms rather unexpectedly, leaving through Immortal Mountain's transport formation. Even though Qin clan had always said that higher realms Immortal Mountain didn't make things difficult for Grandpa 15, and had long allowed him to leave, Xiahou was still worried. Episode 116 Part 1 end here.